We start now. Welcome everybody. Good afternoon, good morning for those that are joining from the other side of the sea, of the ocean. We are really excited to have this meeting here in the platform of the European Cluster Alliance. You know, we are really convinced that clusters can play an important role in what we are going to discuss today and contribute to the success of the initiatives. So, thank you for the low carbon business action and the European Commission for counting with us, for collaborating and offering us the opportunity to organize this session. And okay, let's see what happens today. Okay, but we are sorry, there is echo from somebody. Please mute yourself if you are not speaking. We are convinced that we can join forces with you, we meaning clusters, and make a real success of the actions to be defined. Okay, so for today, we are setting some session rules, okay? This session shall be recorded. The recording shall be posted online so that it can be viewed on demand. That means that if you keep with us, you are affecting this, and we will share this video recording on our YouTube channels and most probably the ECCP and other channels depending on the organizations collaborating in this session. Okay, please use the chat function to ask questions, comments, and give us feedback during the session. That's very important. Okay, we are a lot of people. We will try to answer all the questions either by the chat or by the different spaces that we will go through during the session. Okay, keep yourself on mute if you are not speaking. That's very important. And please complete the feedback survey at the end of the session. We will be very happy to hear from you. Okay, those are the session rules. And now I want to give you a general overview of the agenda for today. Nina, can you go? Yes, please. Thank you. So now we are on the opening of the session. I will introduce. Please mute yourself, Alain. Okay.
Yes.
Please mute yourself if you are not speaking. That will be, yeah, thank you. So after the opening, we will go through the emerging grid marketplace in the Americas with 3 presentations from Canada, Argentina, and Mexico. And later we will hear about smart approaches to market entry in the Americas with the low carbon business action, the Enterprise European Network, and the European Cluster Collaboration Platform interventions. Okay, there will be time for question and answers and the conclusion. That is the agenda for today, and I now have the pleasure to introduce you to the moderator for today, Eva Revilla from the European Commission, DG Grow D2, if I am right. Welcome, Eva.
Yes, you're right. Thank you very much, Antonio, for hosting this event. Good morning and good afternoon to everybody. We have really high expectations about this event, but I will explain you later why. Now I would like to take already the floor on behalf of my director, Ulla Engelmann. So maybe you can move on the slide, please, Nina. Regrettably, up until 5 minutes ago, she was supposed to address you all today. However, her agenda is completely packed today, and there has been a last-minute change that she needed to attend. So this is the reason why I am here today. However, I am the policy officer that is responsible for the low carbon business action in the Americas. So I really hope that I will be able to convey her messages very, very well. There are 3 messages that she wanted to pass you. These messages will touch upon the European Green Deal, the European Industrial Strategy, and our positioning on internationalization. Regarding the European Green Deal, this is the growth strategy of the European Union. And this is our guiding, this is really the guiding force behind every action that we take, including our industrial strategy. The United Nations recently published the IPCC report, the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change report, and the conclusions are very, very clear. We need to do something, and in the European Union we have taken already for a long time climate change and adaptation and mitigation of climate change very much at heart, and we have put in place many things, and one of them, and the most prominent one, our guiding force here, is the European Green Deal. So right now, things are already in motion. We already know that there are more electric vehicles than diesel cars registered in Germany in the first half of this year. Poland is the EU largest exporter of car batteries and electric buses, and the European Bauhaus is leading to an explosion of creativity of architects, designers, engineers across the whole European Union. Our target is of at least 55% emission reduction by 2030. And we are the first major economy in the world to present comprehensive legislation in order to get it done. So now that we are in the aftermath, we are going towards the COP26 in Glasgow. This is really the moment of truth for the global commitment. Because if we continue like this, there is no way that we will keep the global warming to 1.5 degrees within reach. It's just like that. Very recently, during the summer, we put forward a series of legislative proposals to make all these policies happen and fit for delivering the reduction target of 55%, and this is the package that we call the Fit for 55. This is, in fact, our key contribution to the goals of the Paris Agreement, and these legislative proposals, they touch upon every single area: climate, energy, transport, and taxation. So this is on the part of the European Green Deal, but of course we have the industrial strategy, and the industrial strategy needs to fall within the objectives of the European Green Deal. And for that, there is a need to accelerate the green and the digital transition of the EU industry and all its industrial ecosystems. And for that, we are preparing together with industry what we call the transition pathways, where green business models will play a key role. A last point that I would like to make on behalf of FULA is that on the internationalization front, in the State of the Union speech, my president, she referred to the global gateway partnerships with countries around the world to make investments in quality infrastructure, connecting goods, people, and services. And now this project may look small, but in fact it falls into the whole picture that I just explained. And we are doing this because we want to foster business collaboration to support sustainability on both sides of the Atlantic. It really follows exactly what I have just explained. There are free trade agreements that we need to take advantage on both sides of the Atlantic, and the objectives of this project are very clear. We want to provide technical assistance to more than 230 joint business concepts prepared by European companies and counterparts in America, up to the level of the signature of a contract. And 70% of these more than 230 joint business concepts needs to become contracts. So that's all from my side on behalf of my director, Ulla Engelman. And now I would like that we go straight to the first speaker of the session, Emerging Green Marketplaces in the Americas. We are going to get the market insights from Canada. So Jose Canyura, please, team leader from Canada, the floor is yours. Jose, we cannot
Hello.
hear you yet. Hi, go Jose,
Yes,
please go ahead.
I am here. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. It is a pleasure to be here and tell you more about the work of the LCBA Canada project. So today I will start with an overview of the clean tech market in Canada. I will tell you about the sectors that we work with. I will tell you about the opportunities that we have identified per sector and about some of the partnerships we have established. So let's get started. Next slide, please. So let me start by telling you that the Canadian clean tech market is very well established. We have robust mechanisms and partnerships and strong regulatory drivers. However, the market is still an emerging one, and as such, it is sometimes difficult to accurately quantify the market's impact. For instance, some of the challenges that we encounter in the country is that much of the data available focuses on pure play clean tech companies rather than on providing a full picture of all the companies advancing clean tech innovation. Also, Canada is a very vast country, and so data representation tends to be strong in some regions, especially those which have emerged as clean tech hubs, while other regions lack enough information. However, there is data, and even if it does not yet paint a holistic picture, the information points us towards a promising market with opportunities for growth. So using data from the National Statistics Agency, we know that in 2018, the environmental and clean tech activities in Canada accounted for roughly 66 billion Canadian dollars, or roughly 46 billion euros, and this equals roughly about 3% of Canada's GDP. We also know that clean tech potential reaches all sectors of the economy, with most common clean tech applications found in power generation, energy efficiency, water, agriculture, industrial and extractive processes, transportation, and recycling. It is also important to look at Canada's regulatory drivers. Okay, about Canada's regulatory drivers. The Canada has a robust suite of federal, provincial, territorial, and municipal policies that provide an enabling environment for the cleantech market to grow. The most recent regulatory driver adopted in Canada is the Canadian Net Zero Emissions Accountability Act, which establishes a legally binding process to set 5-year national emissions reduction targets from 2030 all the way to 2050. The government has also set up a net zero advisory body, which will advise the government on on the best ways to achieve net zero targets. And there are several other regulatory drivers in Canada, such as the Pan-Canadian Framework on Clean Growth and Climate Change, the Federal Zero Plastic Waste Strategy, and it's important to remember that it is likely that more incentives and regulatory drivers will emerge after the upcoming COP26. Next slide, please. So let me tell you about the economic sectors that we work with in Canada. So the LCBA Canada project has been busy identifying sectors with the greatest opportunities to adopt European clean tech innovation. Knowing that Canada is the 11th largest emitter of greenhouse gases and the third highest greenhouse gas polluter per capita in OECD countries, we set to identify the highest emitting sectors in the country because we believe that these sectors have the highest incentive to adopt low carbon and circular economy solutions. So we engaged and started to work with the oil and gas sector, which is the single largest emitter in the country, followed by the transportation sector, which is the second largest emitter. We also work with the buildings, real estate, and infrastructure sector, with the electricity sector, with heavy industry, with agriculture, agri-food, and aquaculture, and with the waste and plastics sector. So first, we mapped out all the challenges and opportunities per sector. Then we identified and engaged Canadian buyers in each of these sectors to pre-identify market opportunities which are not currently being met by local Canadian innovation. We call these opportunities challenges. Then, after we identify and validate the challenges, we invite European SMEs, small mid-caps, and mature startups to apply to pitch their solutions to these challenges at one of our challenge pitch events. We have already held 2 of these challenge pitch events. Next slide, please. So this slide and the next one shows some of the opportunities within each sector that we have identified through our market assessment. So there's a wide variety of opportunities in the transportation sector, buildings and real estate, waste and plastics, electricity, and we have already brought some of these opportunities to market. In fact, through our 2 first challenge pitch events that we have already launched, we have brought 20 challenges to market from 11 different Canadian buyers. And we've had a total of 44 European companies pitch their solutions to these challenges. Next slide, please. So these are just some other opportunities available in the heavy industry sector, the agriculture, agro-food and aquaculture, and the oil and gas sector. I believe that this presentation will be made available to everyone so you can take a closer look. And of course, you can reach out to us for more information. Next slide, please. So let me also provide you with some opportunity about the partnerships that we are currently fostering. One of the Canadian buyers we are working with is the Vancouver Maritime Centre for Climate, which is a grassroots industry-led initiative dedicated to accelerating the transition to zero emissions. In our most recent challenge pitch event in September, we featured 4 challenges from VMCC on maritime transport, and we had 8 European companies pitch their solutions. And VMCC is currently reviewing all of the solutions presented to identify the European suppliers they would like to continue the conversations with. We're also working with Walker Industries, which is a leading waste and resource recovery company, in that we presented 1 challenge from Walker Industries in a recent event, and they are currently in conversations with 2 European suppliers which pitch their solutions to the challenge. We're also working with ArcelorMittal, which is a vertically integrated steel producer and one of the world's leading producers of iron ore. And for ArcelorMittal, we presented 1 challenge which was looking for solutions that would allow them to recycle mine tailings, and they are currently in conversations with 1 European supplier. Next slide, please. We're also working with Air Transat, which is a local Canadian airline, and they presented a challenge that sought to eliminate plastics and replace single-use items for in-flight service. And they heard pitches from 6 European companies, and they are currently in internal discussions to decide the companies they would like to continue engaging. We're also working with COSIA, which is the Oil Sands Innovation Alliance. We're working with Maple Leaf, which is a leading consumer protein company, and with several other Canadian buyers. The number of potential Canadian buyers is always growing. We continue to identify and engage new ones in each of the sectors that we work with. And we're also already preparing for our next challenge pitch event, which will happen in February 2022. And we will have a new number of challenge opportunities available for European suppliers to pitch their solutions to. I will stop here, but if anybody has any questions, we're happy to respond them at the question and answer period. And thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jose. All very clear. I would like now to pass the floor to Alfredo Caprile. He is the team leader for Argentina, Brazil, Chile, and Colombia. So, Alfredo, we are very excited about what you have to say. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much, Eva. Well, good morning, good afternoon to all. As Eva said, my name is Alfredo Caprile. I'm the team leader of the Low Carbon Business Action Project for these 4 countries, Argentina, Brazil, Chile, and Colombia. Today, what I will give you is a market overview of the 4 countries, starting with a summary of emissions and commitments made by each of these countries. Next slide, please. As you can see there, Argentina has ratified the Paris Agreement in 2016 and established an unconditional target of limiting emissions to 483 million tons of CO2, including LULUCF, by 2030, and a conditional target of limiting emissions to 369 million tons of CO2. In the case of Chile, Chile has committed to not exceeding 1,100 million tons of CO2 between 2020 and 2030, and limiting CO2 emissions to 95 million tons by 2030. Brazil has committed to reduce greenhouse emissions by 37% below the 2005 levels by 2025, and by 43% below 2005 levels by 2030. In the case of Brazil, also they plan to reach climate neutrality in 2060, with the possibility of adopting a more ambitious long-term objective, depending on how the functioning of the market mechanisms happen. And finally, in the case of Colombia, Colombia has committed to a maximum of close to 170 million tons of CO2 equivalent, equivalent to 51% reduction compared to business as usual, and to reduce black carbon emissions by 40% compared by 2014 by 2030. Next slide, please. In this slide, I'll give you a little bit of an understanding of where we see the market, the main markets and the strategic sectors for clean technology providers. Obviously, we're talking about 4 countries, and in the case of Argentina and Brazil, they are very large countries, and also Colombia and Chile. In the case of Argentina, Argentina is a leading food producer with large-scale agriculture and livestock industry, and very rich in natural energy resources. In the case of the leading manufacturing sectors in Argentina, you basically have agribusiness, chemical and petrochemical, steel and metal, timber, pulp and paper, and meat processing. As you can see, I mean, it's a very, very wide range of manufacturing sectors that we have to basically look into. And the key sectors where we see opportunities basically are in energy efficiency, energy storage, smart agriculture. Argentina is a very large country in terms of agriculture, and also biogas from agriculture and animal waste. The economy in Brazil is mainly based on agriculture. Brazil, as you may know, is the world's largest leading coffee producer, has a very large mining sector, mostly in precious stones. Manufacturing, they include military equipment, electronics, automobiles, aircrafts, and also tourism. The key sectors where we see opportunities for Brazil, they have to do with energy efficiency, biogas, low carbon agriculture, that's a very, very important one, and food value chain, solar and wind power, waste treatment, and circular economy. Moving on to Colombia, Colombia has a track record of prudent macroeconomic and fiscal management, which is anchored on an inflation targeting regime. Oil and gas have the highest annual average turnover, followed by energy, food industry, building, and construction. The key sectors that we have identified in Colombia happen to be smart and green cities, waste treatment, biogas, mostly from the recovery of agricultural waste, and circular economy and recycling. And finally, in the case of Chile, Chile has a very large mining and metal and agricultural sectors, and they have the largest share of exports for the country. There's a new policy framework and global openness of these sectors, leading to a greater environmental scrutiny, which implies more compelling business opportunity for clean tech providers. The key sectors that we see in Chile with opportunities for European clean tech providers happen to be energy efficiency in the mining sector, circular economy, and recycling. Chile has lately passed an extended producer responsibility law, which they call the REP law, And many of the projects are related to basically being able to comply with this law. And then there's also opportunities on waste treatment and forestry management. Next slide, please. Going into the business opportunities that we are already working with in Argentina, basically, here we're just going to give you an overview of the key sectors in which we're working, just because of a time limit. But basically, we have an opportunity on sustainability highways. Basically, one of the concessionaires of highways in Argentina, they are seeking to reduce the environmental impact for 2022, and they are seeking into innovative solutions that will contribute with sustainability goals in terms of resource utilization and emissions. The technologies that they're looking for have to do with eco-friendly pavement materials and technology solutions for on-site energy generation in highway networks. Those are the two main opportunities from these sustainability highways. Then we also are working with injection with litters, and basically the subsector in this is biogas and biomethane. There is a very large bioethanol producer that gathers about 28 agro-industrial companies, and they are interested in advancing advanced techniques for liquid digestate application that they can use it as fertilizers. The technologies that they're looking for in this case is injection with litters to directly introduce the digestate into the soil and minimize the loss of nutrients in the application process. Argentina is known for what they call non-till farming or zero tillage, and this technique basically is the one that they're using, and the idea is that through the litters that they're being used to do the non-till farming to introduce the nutrients into the soil. Another opportunity that we have identified in Argentina has to do with agri-tech solutions, smart agriculture. There is the increase in commodity prices is triggering sectorial growth and a high demand for agricultural inputs. Hence, they are looking for disruptive technologies to implement their production processes. Basically, what they're looking for are technologies that has to do with what they call isobus technologies, hybrid engines for agricultural machinery, technologies from grain scanning, impurity detection, protein and oil content detection, and anything that has to do with efficient crop protection technologies. Next slide, please. Moving on to Brazil, I mean, again, we're going to concentrate on three of the opportunities that we found for Brazil. One has to do with plastic to value, the plastic to value chain, and basically talking about waste management. This project aims to implement the necessary adaptation in an industrial plastic facility that they want to process naphtha circular, which is a raw material resulting from chemical recycling of plastics. The technologies that they're looking for in this case have to do with information and communication tools for waste flow streaming, automatic sorting plants, plastic extraction, and waste valorization units. Brazil is also very interested in anything that has to do with carbon-free farms. The project, the Low Carbon Business Action Project, has identified a very strong demand for low carbon technologies, addressing anything that has to do with intensive livestock producing activities, especially focus on valorization of agricultural waste. There, we're looking for anything that has to do with animal waste recovery for biomass generation, manure recovery for generating biogas, and vegetable biomass, maize waste recovery for animal feed. We have also identified things that had to do with smart agriculture, and we are in contact with more than 120 fruit exporters in Brazil. They are triggering a demand for efficient harvesting and post-harvesting solutions that could contribute to a more sustainable use of resources. Here, what they're looking for is zero waste fertilizers, crop nutrients, and biofertilizers, cultural and biological pesticides, efficient and interconnection crop protection equipment, basically have to do with blast sprayers. Next slide, please. In the case of Chile, I mean, one of the opportunities that we identify had to do with urban mining. Basically, the aim of these projects is to improve urban mining processes and recycling electronic equipment in order to focus with the components that they have inside, because many of them are made of raw materials that they have a finite use, and therefore they're difficult to find. So the technologies that they're looking for in this case are metal shredders, technologies enabling the magnetic separation of metals, machinery for separation of ferrous mixed metals. We're also working with the mining industry, and as I mentioned before, due to the extended producer responsibility law, there is very much interested in technologies for the reuse and, of waste generated from mining and construction activities and other processes. In here, they're looking for shredders, solid material separators, granulating machines, manufacturers of truck load tire recycling machines, and technologies for the extraction of crude oil from plastic waste. And in the chemical waste and recycling sector, there is large Chilean companies that they're looking for new technologies in order to reduce the impact of on the use of batteries, lubricants, oils, used cooking oils, and they're looking for new ways to treat this waste in a more sustainable way. So in that case, they're looking for technologies that enable the collection of batteries to give them a second life, processes to obtain biodiesel from used cooking oils, and collection and management of industrial oils and lubricants. Next slide, please. Finally, for Colombia, one of the opportunities that we identified in there is their interest in the blue hydrogen plant. As part of their decarbonization strategy, one of the oil and gas companies in Colombia is working on a project to produce hydrogen with carbon capture, what is called blue hydrogen, and use this and other biofuels to generate energy. The technologies that they're looking for, they have to do with technologies that will allow the implementation of blue hydrogen plants with carbon capture, capable of receiving 4 million standard cubic feet per day of gas, and on fuel cells, hydrogen or natural gas with an electric power output between 300 and 500 kilowatts. In terms of sustainable construction, green buildings, they are looking for more sustainable construction, and several Colombian companies are exploring technological alternatives and new construction methods. They're looking for ecological building materials, sustainable painting, building automation systems, passive ventilation systems, energy efficiency. And finally, on roadworks, there is extensive experience in the design and execution of environmental projects at the national and international level. A Colombian company is working on a new project to recycle construction waste. They're looking for equipment for processing and recycling of road construction waste and asphalt additives. Next slide, please. Here we'll give you a very brief review of other ongoing projects that we have in these 4 countries. In the case of Argentina, we're working with a large local tea company. They are interested in implementing an energy efficiency hot air supply system for the black tea withering and drying processes. This company is located in the province of Misiones, and basically the technologies that they're looking for is an indirect heat generators that works with biomass to supply 2 drying lines. And this generator is going to be provided by an Italian company that has many other projects of similar projects as a reference. In the case of Brazil, we're also working on biogas and biomethane. And the first composting site that has been licensed in Rio de Janeiro state will be treating about 600 tons of organic waste a day. And they are looking in conversations with a German company that will carry out the project, which will upgrade the 3 phases of aerobic and anaerobic digestion process with production of biogas and compost. In Chile, we're also working on circular economy and recycling. There are local companies that have large forest lands, and they are currently disposing large amounts of wood. The company is basically interested in finding ways to recover this waste by implementing milling and pelletizing equipment. In this case, we have a Spanish and Slovenian company that will provide integrated sawmill equipment, pelletizing equipment, and boilers. And finally, for the case of Colombia, there is a cheese waste recovery project. So a local cheese producer, they need a technology to treat 50,000 liters a day of whey milk, which is a byproduct of cheese manufacturing, to avoid dumping it to water bodies and comply with environmental regulations. In here, we have identified a Spanish company that will provide membrane filtration technology for whey treatment, consisting of a microparticulation system to increase the cheese yield by 20%. Next and final slide. Here we'll give you a very brief review of the local supporters that we're working with in each of the countries. In the case of Argentina, we have been working with the energy efficiency program. This was a project funded by the European Union, and through which we have been working on providing support to industries in the implementation of the ISO 50001. So many of the companies that were part of these learning networks are now being identified as potential players on the low carbon business. We're also working with RAMCC. RAMCC is an Argentinian network of municipalities against climate change, and with INTA. INTA is the National Agricultural Livestock Technology Institute, which aims at sustainable development in the agricultural sector. In the case of Brazil, we're working with Embrapa. Embrapa is the Brazilian livestock research company, which is part of the Ministry of Agriculture. We're also working with the Brazilian Association of Distributed Energy and with ABESCO. ABESCO is the Brazilian Association of Energy Conservation Services Companies, the ESCOs.
Dear Alfredo, sorry for interrupting you. This is Eva. It's just that maybe we cannot go into the details of all the local supporters. If you could please just mention them so we can move on. Thank you.
Perfect, Eva. Sorry. Well, in Chile, you will have copies of the presentation. We have Corfo, we have Sofafa, and Amporos. And in Colombia, we're working with Acoplásticos, Acaire, and CCS, which is the Colombian Council for Sustainable Building. I remain at your disposal. Any questions that you may have, and also you're glad to get in contact with us, and we can provide you more and more information in each of the countries. So thank you very much, and sorry for going over time.
No, Alfredo, you were fantastic. It's just that I really want to keep the webinar on time. And as everybody may have already noticed, in this project, in the Low Carbon Business Action, this is not a general project. It's a very, very targeted, precisely on the areas where there is a real opportunity for the European companies to engage in productive business contracts with American counterparts. So I really hope that everybody is taking very good note of the areas. And now, without further delay, I really would like to pass the floor to Daniela Cedola. Daniela is the project director for Mexico. So Daniela, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Eva. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. Hope you can hear me well. So yes, I'm project director for the market, for the Mexican market, and I work with my colleagues Arnoldo and Renata and others that are here in the call as well. So if we could move to the next slide, please. Yes, I want to give you an overview of the market, the Mexican market. You know, as some of you may know, Mexico is a large economy. It's the 15th largest economy globally, and it has had a low but a stable economic growth since the 90s. So COVID, obviously, like in many other countries, has generated an economic impact, a downturn, but the forecasts for GDP growth, for example, for 2021 in Mexico, are around 4.7%, which is, you know, very high considering this is coming up from an economic crisis. Also, the forecast for 2022 is 3% GDP growth. So this is quite positive when we consider the growth in Europe. Sometimes is not there. So the market for environmental technologies, for low carbon technologies, is going to grow. So there are opportunities. There is a strong need for modernization of the infrastructure, for example, in the water sector and in the waste sector. As if you are familiar with the Mexican market, there is a scarcity of fresh water in Mexico because the country has a lot of deserts and mountains. So fresh water is a problem. Therefore, technologies to reuse water, optimize the water sector are very important and relevant in this sector. Waste as well is very important because there is also a scarcity of waste disposal in Mexico. This is one of the main actually environmental problems that you see in Mexico. So they have a heavy reliance in landfill, for example, and a lot of urban development, a lot of people crammed in cities, as Mexico City, as you know. So there is not much space for the waste. So therefore, the need for improving this area, there are opportunities for waste management. In terms of reduction of carbon emissions and more green technologies, there is a general law on climate change that aims to reduce greenhouse gas by 50% by 2050. So what we need to pay attention is how they're going to enforce this regulation and how they will be progressing. Also, one interesting point is that Mexico was the first developing country to commit to greenhouse gas reduction. So they came very advanced in this topic, in this area, ahead of the curve, and therefore we need to watch what the government does. We know, for instance, that the current government is promoting more the development of the oil industry in Mexico. So that's one thing that we are watching very carefully. But there is a lot of movement on the private sector, in particular, towards more decarbonization. In terms of market potential, we have identified the 9 subsectors here presented on the slide. So coming from waste to energy, but also low carbon sectors, low carbon services, waste management, as I mentioned, renewables, mobility is a very strong sector for Mexico, green agriculture and forestry, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, green buildings, water treatment, and also ICT for sustainability. If I could point out here let's say the top three, I would say, based on our analysis and the feedback we receive from the market, is this would be mobility, green agriculture, and also waste management, as previously mentioned. So if we could move to the next slide, please. Here, I'm gonna just, I mean, there is a lot of text and we're gonna share these slides with you, but I just wanted to give a high level overview in terms of trends and new developments for the different sectors. So one of them, in terms of water treatment, there is a new regulation, the NOM 001 on wastewater discharges. So here are defining the limits for pollutants in wastewater discharges. So this is very important because then it relates to the full circular economy, the life cycle of water, so creating excellent opportunities for water treatment. So those with those technologies should be watching the space because there are relevant opportunities, and we're going to talk a bit more about them. In terms of renewable energy, there is the National Emissions Registry. So this creates opportunities because companies have to report their direct and indirect emissions when this goes above 25 tons of CO2 equivalent. So this will be relevant, for example, for the larger sectors, and then this would create a demand for renewable energy in there. In terms of mobility, so mobility, as I mentioned, is a hot sector. So there is an excellent opportunity for hydrogen, for example, in the transport and also in the cargo sector. There is an estimated annual investment of $6 billion in Mexico. So this is really relevant. We know the hydrogen technology is still something that's evolving a lot, but this is an area that we can start pay attention as well. We have also in terms of the agriculture, we have the signature of the US, Canada, and Mexico agreement. So this is a very kind of a promising development that you have in the market. This is creating a lot of opportunities for Mexican producers, in particular food producers, for example, and others. So this creates new openings here for those in the green agriculture and forestry. So here we can have opportunities as well, specifically for the recuperation of soils, new technologies for waste as well, for sulfur, for cleaning up the land as well. In terms of the waste management, so again, as I mentioned earlier, is a very important sector. There are opportunities because of Mexico also has a very large population as a country, so there is reliance on landfill, scarcity of waste disposal. So here there is a new regulation as well on the hazardous waste. So it's establishing guidelines for separation, packaging, storage, collection, transportation, disposal of hazardous waste, but also in general, waste management technologies as a whole are very relevant here. We have low carbon services here as well, which is also related to the emission trade scheme. So this is, we have this in Europe as well. There is a matter here of how maturing this is. And then it's also mentioned in the climate change strategy by 2050 that carbon capture technologies are quite relevant as well. Here is very important. For instance, carbon capture is quite promising for instance, heavy industry, and we have some of our partners coming from heavy industry. So those technologies will see an uptake. Waste to energy is also interesting. Is a market that there is the viable renewable energies. It's something that has been raising ground and gaining ground in the energy sectors, but it's more about the integration in the energy networks and systems. That's one of the challenges that we have in the country. Very related to distribution and networks, as you see also in Europe. In terms of then green buildings, we see very good opportunities here, very good demands, because there is a modernization of buildings in Mexico. Again, is the high population, high demand for this. So green buildings are representing around 30% savings in energy, so in efficiency in waste reduction. So here is an area to watch, and we consider also a very important area of high opportunities, for HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning. So all those technologies have a good space in Mexico. So if we could move to the next slide, please. Yeah, so in terms of business opportunities, so number one, mobility, because of the attractive incentives that you see for hybrid and electric vehicles. Also the hydrogen-based points that I mentioned earlier, but also this is related to more transportation. And then new technologies in batteries. So batteries is a hot topic everywhere. So Mexico as well is in the wave. In terms of green buildings, again, we have the HVAC, as I mentioned before, but also we have eco materials that are new building technologies that could bring good performance, economies, energy savings, and so on, making the cost of running a building lower. So this is quite relevant. Green agriculture and forestry, so it's about diversification towards export markets that require more quality and security on the food chain, in the production processes as well. There is a strong domestic demand as well for all the foodstuffs, for all the food products. They are also coming from sustainable and long-lasting agriculture model, and treatment of contaminated soils, hazardous wastes, that's also incentivized by the regulation I spoke earlier, and waste. Also, Mexico is a big, in terms of arable land, they have 11%, so this is quite high actually, and then there is a big producer. I have a few minutes only, so to finish, so low carbon sectors is more consulting services in the value chain optimization and waste carbon dioxide sequestration. If we move on, please. Yes, so waste to energy, again, I mentioned earlier, renewable is about efficiency and storage, water treatment, reusable water, I mentioned already. So here you have on the slides more details, and reuse of waste. Waste is a big, big topic in Mexico, so please pay attention to that part. I'll move to the next one because I want to tell a little bit about the partnership opportunities that we have. So here are some of examples of the corporates we're working with. So here we're trying to really identify the demand in Mexico for green technologies, low carbon technologies coming from Europe. So we have identified these big players in Mexico. They are working with us, for example, in corporate days, where they publish challenges or they publish needs that they have that could be supplied by innovative technology from Europe. So just to mention, Bachoco is a big group in the poultry. They are looking for waste to energy solutions. Jose Cuervo is about waste optimization. Most of us know that, this famous brand. Nestle is looking for new materials, bioplastics, plastic reduction. So this is really highly interesting for innovation. Cemex is a big cement producer, I think one of the biggest in the world, and they are looking for low carbon cements and technologies, industrial technologies, and here carbon sequestration could be relevant as well. Coca-Cola is about fleet optimization. We have PetStar, which is a little bit similar as Nestle, is about recycling, but also plastic reduction, production of more sustainable production. Grupo Mexico is a huge group in mining, railroad construction, so they're really looking for energy efficiency, new materials, smart monitoring, carbon capture as well. And Grupo Bimbo, which is more food, is linked to packaging, recycling, and water management. So, there are multiple opportunities here. If we move one more slide, please. Here are just some of the partners. Yeah,
please,
I have one more. Not this one. Okay, 1 minute, 30 seconds. I just want to mention we have done 11 matchmaking events so far with 7 pitching sessions from EU companies. So this is really running very actively. So we are encouraging people to be in touch with us on this because we have more than 210 Mexican companies in the platform looking for solutions from European providers. And we have already 50 EU SMEs in discussions with Mexico partners. So we hope this will be very useful for you. Thank you. Sorry, Eva.
No, it's okay. Thank you very much, Daniela. In fact, Antonio and Nina are allowing me to take 5 more minutes than scheduled. So we are going to finish at 4:35 CT time instead of 4:30. So we have 5 more minutes, but now I really would like the next of the speakers to really stick to the time as much as they can. So I really would like to pass the floor now to the first speaker of the next session, Smart Approaches to Market Entry in the Americas, because we have seen a lot of opportunities, but actually what can be done for the European companies that are interested now in getting into the American markets. So let me pass the floor to my colleague, Mario Mariani, from the delegation of the European Union to Brazil. He's the head of the FPI regional team in the Americas. So Mario, the floor is yours to explain how the low carbon business access actually works.
Thank you, Eva, and good morning to all the participants from Europe. So Eva gave us the context at the beginning of this session, and then we zoomed in the three components of this action. And now I would like a little bit, as Eva was saying, to give an overview of where we stand with the program's implementation, and also to see how practically it works. So how EU companies, EU interested partners would like to get involved and can get involved in participating in this program. Next slide, please. So Low Carbon Business Action is an EU-funded initiative, and an initiative that, as was said before, focuses specifically on creating business opportunities for green, low-carbon technology and circular economy solutions. It's not a stand-alone project. It was not conceived and it does not operate in isolation. But as Eva was pointing out before, it is fully in line with the principles and with the policy initiatives that the EU is taking under the EU Green Deal, both inside the European Union and with its partners across the world. And I would like you to focus also on the duration, the last sentence in this slide, where we stand now. This is an action that was started at the beginning of this year. And you know that in these kind of initiatives, there's always a pickup period. But now we are really in full swing. And we have basically 2 years of action to promote this international business growth, these partnerships, and the go-to-market strategies. Next slide, please. So how does it work in practice? Here we have a comprehensive shoot of the different sectors and topics in which we are active under this action in the different countries. 6 countries, as was mentioned before: Canada, Mexico, Colombia, Chile, Argentina, and Brazil. So the sectors here were not chosen at random. They were chosen based on a market study in the different markets in order to determine the ones that had the highest business opportunities and the more openings for partnerships. This does not mean that all these sectors are completely mature, that they have already a well-developed business community, and that there are no challenges or barriers to access and to partnership. And this is why this program has a strong emphasis on targeted focus support and technical assistance in the different fields. Next slide, please. So how does it work? First of all, there is a study of the markets, of the business opportunities, as I was saying before, the market intelligence. Then the platforms where the matching can start and where different business opportunities are flagged and where the first contacts can be established between interested businesses, so that you reach the matchmaking, and there are also a number of meetings and pitches and dedicated events in order to promote these partnerships. And finally, the ambition, the idea, the target we have is to, in as many cases as possible, to develop joint business concepts. The approach is one, it's uniform for the whole program. But then, of course, it is targeted and it is modular based on the market. First of all, on the economic conditions of that market, but also on the context, the economic context, the political context, the rules, the access to market, and so on. So you have one approach throughout, but then a targeted declination of this approach to the different markets. Next slide, please. And then there is the support. So once these joint business concepts are agreed, there is support directly provided by the program through technical assistance. Again, technical assistance covers a wide array of different types of support. You can see them in the second box on the right. There's feasibility studies, there's legal, tax and regulatory advice, technology, transfer, access to finance. But again, this is a uniform possibility. It's a uniform menu, but then you pick and choose based on the specific needs of the partnership that you have developed with the company and what are your needs, what is that context, and so on. And the ambition is to reach the market and to improve the commercialization of certain solutions or products by creating the partnership between EU businesses and the partners in the American countries. Next slide. Who can take part? So we have kept this initiative very open and flexible. The idea is that it is open to startups, SMEs, mid-cap companies from 27 member states of the European Union and companies in Argentina, Brazil, Canada, Chile, Colombia, and Mexico, as well as stakeholders such as industry organizations, chambers of commerce, government institutions, financial institutions, EU-funded initiatives. There are criteria to define what is an EU participant and criteria for what can be a company from one of the partner countries. These are regarded, first of all, with ownership. So they must be owned by an EU national in the case of EU companies. They must be operating, be registered in an EU member state from a tax point of view. So they must have an EU VAT number. They must have activities in an EU member state, headquarters in one of the EU member states, and they must be in one of the focus sectors. With regard to companies...
Mario, this is Eva. Just to remind you, 1 more minute, and then we will have to pass to the next speaker. Thank you.
Yes. Companies from partner countries can be buyers, adapters, or business partners, integrators, developers, and they must have a valid VAT number in the country. So, next slide. For participation, so you can register in the platforms in one of the 3 programs or in more than one of the 3 programs if you want to target a specific country or specific countries, but as well, next slide, you can also go through the platforms of the countries, identify the partners and create a joint business concept. And next slide. Here you have a snapshot of how many companies are already taking part in the community. You can see that in just a few months, we are already at almost 300 European SMEs in Mexico and the Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Colombia components, and over 100 in Canada. So finally, you can go to the next slide. Here you will see how active this program already is. In just a week, these are the events that we'll be organizing under the Argentina, Brazil, Chile, and Colombia components. Next slide. Again, what is on the program already for November? Next slide. Mexico and Canada. So, next slide. These are the contacts for the program, and so I will close by saying this is a program that is already up and running. It's there. There are plenty of opportunities already created. It's pretty flexible in terms of sectors, in terms of companies, in terms of businesses, and in terms of the support that you can get. So now is the moment to go onto the platform, register, and start seeing if you can create some business opportunities and some partnerships in the different fields of the programs. Thank you, and I will stop there.
Thank you very much, Mario. I would like to invite the whole the whole team to use our communication channels to inform about the calendar that we just saw. I would like now to pass the floor without further delay to Jesus Rojo Gonzalez, who is going to talk to us from the perspective of the Enterprise Euro Network and the support they can offer to you to Interamerica. So, Jesus, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Eva. Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Jesus Rojo. I work on the Enterprise Europe Network in Madrid region. I'm going to give you our perspective and point of view of the Enterprise Europe Network and our collaboration with the Americas. Next slide, please. The Enterprise Europe Network is the world's largest support network for SMEs with international ambitions. It's a network co-funded by SMEA, the European Innovation Council and SMEs Executive Agency since 2008, and under the COSME program that is now in the single market program. You can see here, or link to the general portal of the Enterprise Europe Network. Next slide, please. Our mission is to support any SMEs which want to develop their innovation potential, help them to increase the business cooperation and the internationalization, and also provide services to increase the participation on research and development and innovation programs with EU funding. In addition, we try to improve the knowledge of the European Commission policies among our clients, among our stakeholder institutions. Since last year, during the COVID, we increased the number of new services, helping SMEs to be more sustainable, digital, and resilient. Next slide. So the Enterprise Europe Network supports any business to establish a cross-border collaboration in different fields, in commercial cooperation, innovation partnership and technology transfer, and also in joint research and development collaboration. So next slide, please. We provide free services to SMEs in different pillars. As you can see, we provide services on international partnership, advisory support, innovation support in different services and activities. We have a very extended database of technologies, offer, demands. Also, we organize different brokerage events to put together SMEs and other institutions from many countries. We will see how is the extent of the network. We provide free services on IPR and other services, including now services related with sustainability and digitalization for SMEs in order to be more resilient and to be aligned with the Green Deal and other policies related with sustainability. Next slide, please. The network is composed by more than 3,000 local experts located in more than 600 locations, cities, regions, and we are present in exactly now in 68 countries worldwide. So I will show you the scheme of the network. In Europe, we are based on regional consortia covering the entire Europe and associated countries. Next slide, please. So you can see it's based on regions and connected to the world. So the members of the Enterprise Europe Network in Europe are composed by Chamber of Commerce, foundations, business associations, and other institutions related with innovation and internationalization. Next slide. If we talk about third countries, internationalization, we have this Business Cooperation Center. The BCC is the member of the Enterprise Europe Network out of Europe. And in America, as you can see, we have several consortium covering countries in America. So you can see we have the EN in Argentina, Brazil, Canada, Chile, Mexico, Peru, Uruguay, and the United States. So it's very related with the low carbon business action. 6 of the countries, 5 are in the Enterprise Europe network, and actually we are working on this collaboration with the low carbon action to select European companies that will meet the needs in the low carbon countries targets. As you can see, each BCC in America, they have mentors of the EN. I'm one of the mentors. I'm mentoring Chile and Argentina, and we have other colleagues mentoring the rest of the countries, and we provide advice, training, and organize different activities to put together Europe and these BCCs of the Enterprise Europe Network. Next slide, please. Why we need the international members? Because it's so important for us to be connected with the world. In this case, with America, with Latin America, mainly because of our language. We share a culture and language, and it's so easy for Spanish companies to have this relation with the BCC in America. We help as Enterprise Europe Network Europe. We try to expand SMEs global growth in new markets. It's a win-win situation. So BCC companies will have cooperation and business relation with other European companies. We share.
Jesus, this is Eva. 1 minute, and
okay.
We have to pass to the next speaker. Thanks.
Okay, we share the same methodology, and we are organizing events to put together needs and expertise to put together and have a successful business. Next slide. We are organizing company mission, brokerage event, and we are collaborating with the local low carbon business action. We are organizing this brokerage event on circular economy. You can connect and include your profile in order to connect with American companies from the BCC countries. Next slide. This is just if you are interested to be part of the Enterprise Europe Network, there is an open call with 3 deadlines to be part of this Enterprise Europe Network as a BCC. Next slide. And finally, as you can see, in Spain, we have 9 consortium covering the entire country. And next slide, please. We are very active on Twitter, and we connect with our clients and with our BCC. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jesus. As you see, though this webinar is focusing on the business opportunities in the Americas with a specific focus on the low carbon business action, the opportunities are always there anytime for you when you need help in order to access the American markets. And now I really would like to pass the floor to Douglas Thompson. He is the leader for internationalization of the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. So Douglas, the floor is yours.
Fantastic, thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. As has been introduced, my name is Douglas Thompson. I'm the leader of internationalization for the ECCP, the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. Thank you very much indeed for the invitation. As ever, I only have a few slides, so for your timekeeping, I hope I'm able to keep in time. And also, before I start, many thanks indeed for all the interesting participations and presentations today. A huge amount of information and some very interesting follow-ups, I think. So, within the range of activities that the ECCP provides, I wanted today just to focus on some for cooperation beyond the EU. I'll do this at a very high level, and in each of the slides there's a link to where more information can be found on the platform. So maybe I could go to the next slide. Okay. So first of all, through internationalization for the ECCP, But the ECCP is the home of the Cluster Go International initiatives of the European Commission and the European Cluster Partnerships. As I'm sure most of you will know, this is an initiative for clusters who want to scout missions, who want to provide concrete collaboration agreements to help their SMEs, to help their members internationalize their services, internationalize their agreements all around the world and in various different numbers of sectors. All this in the overall aim of developing and implementing joint internationalization strategies. Now, there's been a number of the Cluster Go International calls. There's been a number of Cluster Go International projects. All of these are accessed, can be accessed through the ECCP, through the platform, and below you'll see how to access those on the platform. And through there, you can also access the forums, the webinars, and other capacity building activities, and indeed information sharing activities that are available for all the members of the ECCP, and in particular in this case the Cluster Go International clusters and partners. Perhaps I could go to the next slide, please. Perhaps then moving on to certain specific activities. The ECCP run a number of international matchmaking events. Now, the aim of these is to support new collaboration opportunities. On the slides, we've focused on one-to-one virtual appointments. Previously, of course, these were physical events. We've moved to virtual events and now moving to hybrid events. And of course, in the future, we're moving to fully hybrid and back to fully physical events. However, learning the advantages, learning the benefits from this purely virtual world in which we've implemented these events so far over the last year and a half or so. In terms of the types of matchmaking events, they're aimed at clusters, but the clusters can bring SMEs, they can bring their member organizations along with them. And indeed, I think that the whole idea has been expanded recently to include other types of participants, other types of organizations to be included in these matchmaking events. So in terms of internationally, there's outgoing events, which is European clusters looking outside of Europe, either on a sector-based or country-based. Incoming international events, which is the same concept, but international clusters and SMEs coming to Europe for the specific event. And indeed, intra-Europe cluster events, which tend to be very much sector-focused and focus on matching clusters and their members and other organisation and participants on an intra-European level. To give you some examples, we've actually just finished, it says next event here, but it finished in the last couple of days. There was a very interesting EU South-Med matchmaking event, which was done on the 12th and the 13th of October. That's a nice example because it's also an example of an event, as all of these are, which are co-hosted with other types of organizations. In this case, the Next Society, which is an open community of 7 Mediterranean countries and the EU. And indeed, that's a follow-on event from a previous 2019 event as well. Coming up in the near future is the EU Singapore matchmaking event.
Sorry for interrupting you, Douglas. I know you only had 5 minutes, so 1 more minute, please, so we can keep.
Yeah, 1 more minute is absolutely fine. So the EU Singapore matchmaking event, that's done alongside Enterprise Singapore. That's obviously still open for anyone who's interested, and that will be a virtual matchmaking event between the EU organisations and Singapore organisations. Maybe I could go to the next slide. So very briefly, the ECCP also now hosts the European Resource Efficiency Knowledge Centre, ERIC, in partnership with the Joint Research Centre, and there I show you how to get there. Perhaps we can go to the next slide because we show a little bit more about what ERIC does. So the ERIC community provides services to its members, both support programs for companies and training programs to allow companies to achieve transition. It also provides, I think highlighting that it provides services to businesses and business support organizations. And so here you can see how businesses can access tools and learning resources, including experts at their local level, and support organizations can be part of the development and implementation of the ERIC activities and benefit from state-of-the-art and pooled expertise. Again, there's a link there to show exactly how to get to that information. And so that is me. If you go to the next slide. Just one more slide showing the overall activities which the ECCP provides. Some of them we've already discussed, and others that you'll find more information on the platform. And then the next slide is to say thank you very much. Eva, I hope I managed to stick to my 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Douglas. I am very happy with all of you. We are going to keep the delay of only 5 minutes in this webinar, so thank you very much. I now would like to ask our team. Our team has they have been screening all the questions that have been put in the chat. I wonder if Catherine would like to take the floor. Catherine, are you there?
Yes, hello, Eva. It's Renata here. I'll be supporting Catherine with the reading of the questions, if that's okay for you.
That's okay. Thank you, Renata. Please go ahead.
Perfect. So the first question came through during Jose Candura's presentation on Canada. And he was asked, and Diego Teners is asking, what about electricity storage solution and sustainable heat production and storage? Do we have potential for those technologies in Canada?
Jose, are you there? Or
yes,
anybody from the... Thank you.
Thank you.
Jose.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Eva. I am here. I'm also here with Caroline Brown, who is our Canadian Cleantech expert. She can also help me with this question. But yeah, to answer that question, absolutely, there are opportunities for these types of solutions in European solutions in Canada. In fact, some of the challenges that we have already brought to market deal specifically with these type of solutions. We are always looking for new opportunities so that we can bring new challenges to market that provide new opportunities for European suppliers. We can expand more in greater detail afterwards if you would like to reach out directly to us, and we can tell you about the opportunities that we have already presented and new ones that may be on our pipeline.
Thank you. Renata, please.
Yes, next question is coming from Sandra Hernandez. What do you think is the most important challenge for green business in Argentina and why? So this is directed to LATAM.
Hi, thank you for the question. Right now in Argentina, the biggest challenge that we have is getting access to financing. I mean, the economy is in dire straits and access to financing is highly restricted. So we're working mostly with export companies that have access to hard currency. But that, I would say, is the most important challenge for the Argentinian opportunities. But feel free to contact us and we can discuss whatever is it that you are offering and try to find a niche for you and see if we can close a deal.
Perfect, very clear. So the third question goes to the Mexican market, and it's from Natalia Rocos. So they are a company producing unique amino acid fertilizers by processing animal waste, like poultry, feathers, horn, and hooves. And they ask if there is possibility to be connected with the Mexican company Bachoco, as it was mentioned in Daniela's presentation. Daniela?
Yes, thank you. So yes, there is a possibility to connect with Bachoco because we are going to incorporate them. So this will be setting 15 EU SME showcase Cleantech solutions, Bachoco, based on the business challenges that we will identify together with them. So if you're interested in being in touch, please.
Daniela, you're cutting a bit for me.
Right, I'm cutting. Our team will schedule a coaching call in the coming days to help you to define the go-to-market strategy and approach to contact Bachoco.
Great. Thank you, Daniela. So please feel free to just register through the website and our teams will contact you to make sure that you're assessed for this event with Bachoco as well. And we just received a question on the Colombian market. So which are the opportunities for the Colombian market in terms of green buildings? Could someone name some names of companies that could collaborate with? And that comes from Tarja Delgado.
Can you repeat the question? There was an interruption on the internet and I couldn't hear it.
Yes, absolutely. So it's what are the opportunities in the Colombian market for green buildings? Are there companies in this market that could be named as potential collaborations?
Yes, I think there are great opportunities. We're actually going to have a webinar on sustainable cities, and please get in touch with us, and I will put you in touch with the liaison officer from Colombia, and he can tell you a little bit more in detail the type of companies that they're looking for, technologies that have to do with green buildings.
Okay, perfect. Hector would like to register to the Mexican market. We will for sure share with all the attendees later on the links for all the markets, for all the platforms. I've seen, Hector, you had a previous question just talking about your company has been working projects for waste management, including hazardous waste and alternative fuels, and asking if that would be interesting for the markets across this presentation. So this is a question open to all markets, if anyone wants to address it first. Yes, for anyone for hazardous waste, opportunities for hazardous waste in any specific market?
I think
Yes, I think Alfredo was trying to talk, and then Daniela, right? So Alfredo, please.
Yeah.
I think there are opportunities for that in Chile, but again, the best thing would be to contact us, and then we can get very specific.
And also
Daniela?
in Mexico, there is the norm 87, so is the regulation for hazardous waste. So this creates a need in the market. So therefore, yes, there are opportunities.
Likewise in Canada, if I may just add, we just would like to understand better the type of technologies and solutions that can be provided. So we would invite the company to get in touch with us directly.
Perfect. Eva, do we still have time for a last question?
Yes, please go ahead. We will finish in 5 minutes, so we have time for a last question or last 2 questions.
Okay, perfect. So from the company Odon Kirali, Nina Hopman is sharing with us, are there geothermal business opportunities in this market, exploration and energy generation? So again, open to all 3 markets.
For Mexico, there are opportunities for renewable. We didn't identify anything very, very specific for geothermal. It's very specific, depends on obviously on the characteristics of the region as well. So we could come back to you and discuss in more detail what you are looking for and what you're thinking, and we can do some research directly there and find out.
Yeah, in the case of Argentina, they're looking for geothermal opportunities, but in applications to buildings, not the traditional geothermal large projects.
For Canada, there is quite a bit of investment going into large geothermal projects, especially in the Western Canadian Sedimentary Basin, in terms of oil and gas wells. There is also residential, commercial building geothermal work going on as well. So there's opportunities in Canada.
Perfect. Eva, I think with that, we close our round of questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I see that the number of participants has been very high, mainly during the first part of this webinar. The questions are very targeted. I see a lot of interest from the participants, from companies, and I just wonder if this is an open invitation to everybody that is participating here. If we see that there is demand to have another webinar of this type, where we can go into the details of the business opportunities that are detected by our teams in America, by all means, we can do another webinar of this type to accelerate the identification of the companies that could benefit from the low carbon business action. That is the first message. The second is that I am very pleased with the results of this webinar. webinar. I really would like to thank you, everybody, for participating and for your questions and for your active participation. I would like to thank you, all the speakers, and please do not forget to fill the follow-up survey, because we want to know if there is any particular need that you would like us to address. We are there for you. And I wish you all the best, and let's keep in touch. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. If anyone wants to give the feedback right away, you can scan directly with your phones the QR code on the right-hand side of the screen, and we'll be happy to get your inputs.
Thank you very much, Renata. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you to everybody.